You are tapped in with the Questions Hip Hop Podcast. Every week, we provide you with deep dives, conversations, debates, thought exercises about hip hop culture, music, with its greatest participants and fans. And on this episode, we are doing a return to our draft series. You might have seen the 1995 draft that we did, and we're hopping ahead a decade to 2005, drafting the greatest moments in that year of rap music. My name is Sean Kantrowitz, host of The Questions, and I'm joined today by an elite panel. And this is some good, I like when we mix up different perspectives, different energies. We've never had this foursome here. So this is going to be a good one. Joining me, as always, is my often co-host and the best rapper out of Orlando, Florida. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to plant the flag. We got MidaZ the BEAST. MidaZ, what's going on?
Yeah, that's a fact. And you just threw me off because you spitting right now. So just keep spitting. But no, really excited because I have visceral feelings for 2005. I have visceral feelings for 2001 through 2006. So yeah, let's get it.
MidaZ, I'm going to spring this on everybody, and you're first here. Describe your 2005 in 5 words or less. How would you describe where you were at in 2005?
Hated hip hop, fucking with women. That would be the whole deal.
I love it. Yeah, that's. I think we all can relate at some point in our
of a
lives.
certain age. There's this thing with wrestling. They call it being a lapsed fan. So everybody was a fan of wrestling when they was a kid. Then you get a certain age and you're like, this wrestling shit is corny. I'm out, right? And you usually feel that way somewhere around 11th grade, 10th grade. And it's because now you care about girls. And to girls, you can't be no wrestling fan. Like, this doesn't work, right? And then somewhere around like 28, you come back to wrestling. Like, wrestling's kind of awesome and shit. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what happened in hip hop. Like, we loved it. And then like we had a couple years where we were like, man, this shit sucks, bro. Like, I needed to get into some other shit. And then we came back like, oh, wait a minute. This isn't as bad as I thought it was 5 years ago. And that's kind of how I feel about those years.
Wasn't predicting a wrestling prediction and analogy there, but here we are, joined by a good friend of mine, an amazing journalist, television producer, the company man. You all know who he is. I don't need to give him an introduction. He's been teaching us and contextualizing hip hop and so much of its, fascinating impact on culture for so long. We got Justin Hunte in the house. Justin, what's up?
Word up, man. Thank you for having me.
Honored to have you. Return Questions guest. We had you back in 2020 in the Instagram days when we were all just trying to figure out what the hell was going on.
Right.
Justin, 2005. You're 2005 in 5 words or less.
Real quick, I was at one of the live ones too. I think you guys did in in LA, so I came through on that one. I did better than the live one that I did on Instagram. I'm still I need to I feel like I need to get my props back for my Instagram performance. It's been sitting with me for 5 years now. But
you're gonna redeem it today.
We'll redeem it. Here we go. But 2005, where was I at? Happy hour.
We're
Daily.
about to have a happy hour here.
So somehow that's still fucking with women. Because
that's the best part of happy hour.
That's all we were doing in 2005.
Right.
Yeah, and kind of outside. On some fuck hip hop, because you probably weren't at an open mic or a cypher session. You graduated to, let me go to where adults are.
Right.
Let me hang out with the civilians.
Let's go see what songs are making these sundresses move in the right way.
Yeah, for real.
Facts. Joining us for the first time on the show, really excited to have him. We got from Atlanta, where we're representing a bunch of different cities here right now, where we're broadcasting from. So this is cool. You know him from the Don't Quote Me podcast. We got the last MJ. MJ, what's good? Welcome to the show.
Well, glad to be here, man. I love the concept. I love what you guys are doing. So, I'm going to represent for the Don't Quote Me podcast here out of Atlanta, man. We have some spicy takes sometimes, and we get to the the gritty in hip hop. So I'm here for it.
MJ, what was your 2005 in 5 words or less?
Girls, girls, girls. Let's keep the theme alive. Let's keep the theme alive. That's what it was.
And by
Clubbing and
and by
girls.
that, I assume you were just bumping the Jay-Z single from the Blueprint, "Girls, Girls, Girls," just constantly.
And
Just
the remix.
that was the soundtrack. The remix with the uncredited Michael Jackson vocals on it.
Yeah.
It was in there.
Let's got to incorporate some of the hip hop trivia still, even as I drift further and further from that format on this show. But that's fine. That's another podcast and discussion altogether. So we are going to hop into our picks for 2005 in this episode. We're talking these categories: best mainstream album, best indie underground album, best overall artist, best verse, best beat, best producer, best album cover, and best music video. Now, we have determined the order of our draft through a random number generator, and here is our order. We've got up first, The Last MJ, second, MidaZ the BEAST, third, Justin, and I will be rounding it out fourth. We're using a snake draft, so the person who goes last in the first round goes first in the second round. So, MJ, you're first.
Okay.
Do we want to say that you get to decide which category? Like whoever is going first gets to sort of kick it off?
I'm going with the first pick, first category too.
Yep.
All right. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's go. Best album. Let's go ahead.
Best
Let's go ahead and
album.
do it. And with the first pick, I'm not gonna have to do much thinking on this because it's only a few standout that I would say qualify, but my pick, we spoke about him earlier. I don't agree with his takes on other things, but we're gonna go with Kanye West with Late Registration. Easy pick. With this, to me, it's like Kanye, his first 5-6 albums were incredible. And I think every time you could say he got better every album, almost. So this one was like, Late Registration was a little bit more polished than College Dropout. And College Dropout was amazing. And I think that with this, his production just got tighter. The writing got tighter. He cemented himself as an artist that was kind of like here to stay. There was no sophomore jinx. He just reinvented himself again from the Bear, and then the Bear got a little older, and then he took the polo off, it took some of it off, and took the backpack off. He just did everything correct, and I think it's just like the second step in his illustrious career. Easy pick for me.
Damn, I don't think we would ever mix the sentence, he just did everything correct with Kanye West ever again.
2005 might have been his year. Yeah, facts.
Now, I think this is, in my opinion, also probably the most lyrical Kanye album. Like he definitely stepped up the writing a lot from College Dropout. He had some great lines on the debut too. But when I think about what is the most Kanye just kind of really putting a lot of thought and kind of, I want to say he was barring out because you never really get that from Kanye, but it definitely seemed like the most thoughtful writing in my estimation. And then production wise too, linking up with John Bryan, who was the producer and multi-instrumentalist who I don't think had really done any hip hop before. He'd worked with Fiona Apple and done a bunch of other, session work and things like that. This was just like you said, MJ. It was like a step up in so many ways.
Yeah.
With the sound of the record.
Yeah. He had a lot of key things that happened with that year. I mean, he had the J, which would probably be someone's pick, his verse on Diamonds Are Forever. Like Jay, and then Cam was on that album. We Major, Nas, Lupe. Like he's perfect. Perfect. I like you said, I don't know how many times you might could say it maybe like one more time with graduation, whatever year that was. He was, he was on a roll, but yeah, Kanye was the guy. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean the thing I love about that album too is to the point about him, maybe the best example of him, quote unquote, barring up. When I hear that song "Gone," I mean, the whole concept is crazy. Like, he's opening a store in the beginning.
Yeah.
He's basically talking about how he is feeding the whole game, right? And then you get Cameron and you get Consequence. And at the end, he's like, "You guys are not appreciating me feeding this game. Sorry, Mr. West is gone." Right. And then there's just so many bars in there. It's almost like a diss track. It's the closest thing I think we get to Kanye really on some lyrical diss track. Y'all don't want no problems from me. What you rappers could get is a job for me.
Fire.
You know what I mean? Like, that was just one of the craziest bars. And then, you go from the hip hop violinist, obviously on the College Dropout, to full orchestras. You know what I mean? You got songs about your grandmother,
Roses,
in the hospital. It's just beautiful composition. You have Drive Slow. I mean, every region was represented too. It's almost like he took that bad boy model, so every region had a song that like really played in their local communities too. It was a top flight project.
Absolutely. All right, so late registration is off the board. MidaZ, you are up next for your best mainstream album.
All right, so check it out, right? As a MC and I'm originally from New York, and there's a certain style of rhyming and music that I grew up on and love. The 2000s was rough on the kid because it started off bad, man. It was tough. And the shit that I loved and the kind of hip hop that I loved was so hard to find in the early 2000s. So I was struggling. And there was a time when, I always say that Doom and Dilla saved my life in the early 2000s because I just thought the kind of hip hop that I love just was dead and they would never come back. That was my mindset. So like, remember hearing Donuts. I know it's not '05, but I remember hearing Donuts. I remember hearing Mad Villainy and the Vaultville Villain and stuff. And that kind of was like, okay, this is kind of giving me some of that juice, right? But for the most part, like being out, like the radio was like at its all time, like, God, man, I can't get nothing fire on the radio type of energy. So this is the early 2000s. So by the time I get to '05, I'm all the way jaded, all the way like the curmudgeon old man. I hate music. It all sucks, whatever. But we were from a because in the South is running things. But we were getting to that place where we were getting out a little bit of the tall T shit and getting into like, all right, even some of the South artists that's coming out that might be on some different steeds, like they're rhyming though. You know what I'm saying? And like some things is going on. So for me, 2005 was super ill because that was the year that brought us Thug Motivation 101, which was like, I like this shit. And it was for a stretch, it was a guilty pleasure. Cause I was like, yo, with my homeboys, I can't even bring up this type of shit. Like, the fuck am I doing? And, we have a conversation. I'm like, yo, you heard that Young Jeezy shit? It's like, nah, I don't listen to that. It's like, it's kind of fire though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I brought it. I remember bringing Thug Motivation 101 up to Brooklyn, playing it. Me and I Make Mad Beats was going crazy about the shit. Played it for Zarism. Zar was hating. Get this shit out of here. And then 10 years later, he loved this shit too. You know what I'm saying? So it took some time to marinate. But think about Thug Motivation 101, man. Like the Jeezy ad-libs was running the game everywhere. So much so that Ye just decided to use ad-libs randomly on a song.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We got Go Crazy. We got Last of a Dying Breed. We got My Hood. We got Gangsta Music. We got Let's Get It. Like, bruh. And then we're not even talking about, if we just talking about whatever, like other Jeezy appearances and things, but Thug Motivation 101 as a listen from beginning to end was crazy. The production on that album, the Shawty Red production on that album, crazy. So that was the first time that I really like flipped the switch on like, I got to give some of this other shit that I've been hating on a try too. And it really opened up my palette like real crazy. So love to that, and that'll be my pick.
Great pick. Great pick.
MJ, you was in Atlanta when that dropped?
No, I wasn't in Atlanta. I was in Birmingham. So I was still in the South. I was in Alabama. And Jeezy hit like a storm. Like, and it's funny because we talked about this the other day on the pod. We were saying like, my ear was, hip hop influence, like New York, so if you rap down here, of course I'm from the South, so I loved it, but I didn't necessarily put it up with the like real kind of like technical rhyming hip hop. So when I first heard Jeezy, my ear kind of like rejected it. I was like, his rapping isn't, you know what I mean? I get it. So T.I. passed the test,
Right.
of the rapping test because he's like an MC of all MCs on top of being the trap music.
You had to tune your ear for Jeezy.
Yeah, you did. And so when I finally got over myself and just accepted Jeezy as what he is, I was like, this is amazing.
It's fire.
It's fire.
Yeah.
And it stands the test of time. Like that's like my go-to workout album now in 2025. So Jeezy was ahead of his time in such a weird way, but I totally understand that's a great pick. Great pick.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll just be walking around and in my head I'll be like, I'm a soul survivor. You know what I mean? Like, they're just out of nowhere, like just, but I think that Jeezy also added a luster to the burgeoning trap sound that maybe a luxury might be an example. You know what I mean? Because everything also sounded so versatile. You could listen to it in the club, you could listen to it in the car. It worked incredibly in the gym. It was great Get Money music, So just the entire production around the album. This is probably one of the first albums where the whole package was greater than the sum of the lyrics. And I'm a lyrics guy first.
Yes.
Right.
So I was able to get past that in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nature, the foundation of a lot of classics, right? If they can change the way that if they can help evolve your appreciation for different styles and sounds. And this is one of those projects that did that for me.
Look, we're going to need to have different perspectives on this, and this probably won't surprise MidaZ, who knows me very well, but I don't think I've ever heard this album in its entirety. But I will concede that Jeezy is the... we talked about this on one of our previous episodes about how like time will heal some of the things that you felt very passionate about. And in the rear view mirror, it's not always as bad. But I would say like, even before that, I would say that Jeezy was like the best of the type of hip hop I was not fucking with at the time. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, like in hindsight and like not clinging so close to these very ridiculous ideals that, define us in our earlier years. This is great music, like, and like I said, I don't know the album front to back as well as you guys do, but I definitely, it was inescapable.
You know this, cash rules everything around me, so what's realer? Call the Skrilla, call me a ghost killer.
It's pretty good.
I mean, I'll be straight up. It did take work for me too to really sink into that album, just like everybody else. You know what I mean? Because I was very, I don't want to say jaded necessarily, but I was hypercritical because I just felt like he was doing a Master P formula. I felt like the ad libs was like the main attraction.
Crazy.
But there's a lot of subtle bars in there too. That's not bad.
And he has style. You know what I mean? Like that's something that really matters beyond bars, beyond writing. Like he has like such a he carved his lane in terms of like the tone of his voice and like like we said, the ad libs. Like people will shit on ad libs, but it's difficult to like do it well and do it in a way that like he branded it as his own. So I'm not hating on Jeezy, guys. I'm just saying I wasn't,
Sean's got a lot
you
more
hating, just hating. That sounds like hate to me. As soon as someone says I'm not hating, soon as you say I'm not hating, you hating.
Right.
And a side note, last night I went to Belly Gang Cushington's show. So speaking of Jeezy, if you don't know, he's like baby Jeezy. Like if you haven't listened to his music, he is incredible. Like if you like Jeezy and you like Thug Motivation 101, go listen to Belly Gang's album. It's called The Streets Is Yours.
Okay, I'm on it.
Listen to me. It's 2025 Thug Motivation, but in today's time, like he's missing BMF with him. He's missing major drug dealing, but the
Major.
the sound, the sonics, he raps just like Jeezy. It's if you like Jeezy, you're gonna love him. But to be fair, he actually at that stage, if you put them side by side, he raps better than Jeezy did at that time. Like we have knock on Jeezy's rap. His raps are dope. Like he's got.
Is he white or is he white or is he just red bone?
That's the question. That's the question. So I think this guy has like star written all over him because that question what you just asked. It's like, is this dude white and he's saying nigga? So it's like, are we okay with this? That's the thing. But turns out he's like, and as black people, y'all know, like the black people that are red and they have like red hair.
So he's Isaiah Hartenstein, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So like he has the black gene.
I would hit Hartenstein if I seen him say nigga in front of me.
It's kind of like Logic. It's kind of like Logic. You would think that, but they're really black. But yeah,
Logic looks like Sean.
Yeah,
Logic does.
You do look like Logic.
And thank you for saying that because I've gotten a lot of I look like Logic, and I always have to correct people. No, Logic looks like me. I've been doing this a little bit longer.
You do look like Logic, but yeah, no, he's mixed. His dad's black and his mom is white. But he's like the red bone version that we know mixed with the white lady,
right.
And it's like, is he? But
he's on the
MJ,
line.
would you say that he reminds you of a young Jeezy?
I see what you did there. A young Jeezy.
I was waiting for that, Sean. I was waiting for that.
That's dope. That's dope. That's a great line.
You're getting criticism. You're getting a lot of picks. You're getting bars in the podcast form. I mean, you don't get me in the booth because you won't know what to do with everything I'm going to spray all over the place. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
All right, so Justin, you're up. What's your pick?
This is with the number 3 pick, it's kind of tough, right? It's kind of tough. Like, my number 1 pick was already taken. And I'm on the line between 2 albums for 2 very different reasons. But I'm going to go with Lil Wayne's The Carter 2. And for similar reasons to Jeezy. But that was the first album for me where I genuinely could see the vision with Wayne. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's his first project that's dope, but Lil Wayne to me, up until that point, was still in the shadow of Juvenile. There was nothing that Weezy made to me that was better than 400 Degrees. And I actually went to a point where I felt it was blasphemous for him to call it album 500 Degrees. That was crazy.
Correct.
I don't know what we doing, but I don't know what we talking about. Weezy is a millennial. I think we forget a lot of times how much he's really seen, how much he's really done. And when he put out the Carter 2, which to me, to this day, I still think is his best lyrical performance. I think.
Is that the joint with Fireman on it? Was that the single?
Yeah, Fireman's on it. He had the song that really broke out for, like, again, changed my perception of Wayne on that album was Shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And he had Shooter with Robin Thicke. And he's got one of the craziest lines at that point in time, which to me really raised a flag for the South. I grew up in the Carolinas. I lived in Brooklyn longer than I lived anywhere. So it's like my whole family's from New York or the East Coast with Philly, a lot of different places. So I've always been on that line. My ear's always been in those too. And nobody represented the South like Outkast, clearly.
Yeah.
But when Lil Wayne said, until the radio stations, I'm tired of being patient. Stop being rapper racists, region haters, spectators, dictators, behind doors dictators. It's outrageous. You don't know how sick you make us. I want to throw up like chips in Vegas. But this is Southern face it. If we too simple, then y'all don't get the basics. And the irony of that is he was not rapping very simplistically at all throughout that entire project. But that to me was the best combination of Wayne we've ever gotten. We've gotten Club Joyce, we've got Feel Me, we've got incredible, just great straight lyrical bar performances. They've got songs for the women. But at the same time, he also had a social consciousness that I don't think we've seen since, right? Outside of maybe Georgia Bush on a couple of mixtapes here and there, I don't think we've seen that level of social consciousness, awareness to the environment around us that we saw in Lil Wayne on the Carter 2. It ended up being one of the most successful albums that year. But it also, in my opinion, was really the beginning of what became, just for a very long time, a triumphant legacy. And he represented for a region that was, as we talked about with Jeezy's album, completely overlooked, underestimated, underappreciated.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. I mean, I think this was really the turning of the shift where people were starting to look at him more as an artist and not just a novelty act, or not just, this
Lil Bow
what at the
Wow.
time was being discarded as like other, like that's not real, like he's not following the tenets of, hip hop, that what makes a dope MC. Yeah, Wayne is ridiculous. And this was really like to your point, like the kickoff of him really starting his tear as a solo artist, even though obviously he had the original Carter that preceded this and some of the other records. I think this is when he's really, honestly, just stepping into like adulthood at this point too. How old was Lil Wayne in 2005? He had to have been like...
Shoot, I mean, he had to be
early 20s.
3, maybe 24.
Yeah.
I wasn't up on Wayne, so I missed that whole boat. I didn't fuck with Wayne until the Carter 3. You know what I'm saying? Which was, I do have a reason why though. So going back to my hip hop elitism bullshit that I was on back then, Lil Wayne was the hood, like, he could rap guy, right? So like so whenever you was in a conversation about hip hop in the hood, they would go, "Hey man, you fucking Lil Wayne though? Lil Wayne go crazy." And I was like, "Get that shit out of here, man. You don't get." But I was doing that just from the straight standpoint of this is with no research. I was just like, "Get that shit out of here, man." I'm like, yo, Lil Wayne, and people would pull up Lil Wayne freestyles and because like the Lil Wayne mixtapes was going crazy even from that point. And he was like I'm telling people like, yo, you got to check out Doom, and you got to like you fuck with Lil Wayne though. And it's like, and all I'm thinking is, you talking about Wobbledy Wobbledy? Like, nah, I don't fuck with Wobbledy Wobbledy. What the fuck?
Midas, you did have research in a rubric. Yours was, how many Wu-Tang albums has Lil Wayne been on? 0? Then I'm not giving him any attention. What are you talking about?
No, I can't fuck with him. He's not on the W? Get out of here. But yeah, no, so I was out. I missed the whole boat. That's why he was like, the Wayne album. I was like, fuck, there was a Wayne album that year. And I remember Fireman, the single, but I never dove in enough to. I just remember actively hating because for the hood, he was always he could rap dude that, like, him and T.I. It was like, yo, we got T.I., we got Wayne, and these are the dudes that's really barring out for the South. And I was like, yeah, but he's not really barring out. Come to find out, he's really barring out.
He's really barring out. I mean, he also, I think, to achieve a certain level of greatness, you have to have a certain level of friction. You have to have there has to be a debate over you. And he had a song on there called Best Rapper Alive. That sounds insane in 2005.
Right.
Lil Wayne got a song called Best Rapper Alive in 2000. He better be rapping better than everybody else. And he wasn't far away from, being arguably considered the best rapper of all time at that point in time.
The funny thing is, in that hate, people would play, the freestyles and stuff, and yo, Midas, peep this. And I would hear and be like, in my head, I'd be like, he's kind of spitting. Like, this is going crazy. My response, though, would be like, man, get this shit out of here, man. This shit, you know what I mean? And I'd be like, it was hate, bro. It was actual hate. It wasn't Sean Dammit hate where it's masked as not hate. It was actual hate. You know what I'm saying? So I just wasn't on the train at the time. But yeah, I could see that for sure.
I mean, go back and give it another listen. You know what I mean? Like, even songs like Hit 'Em Up, I had to hit him up. I ain't really want to hit him. It's so crazy. You know what I mean? But like, just like generally speaking, the range of of conversations that he fosters. I don't know if he's ever done that again in the same way. And plus, you got great features from Currency and Corrupt, and there's a lot to offer on that project.
I do not like Carter 2 at all. Yeah, I don't like. To me, like, Carter 1 is his best album to me, easy. Carter 2, to me, just and this is why I don't like it. It just sounds like one long run on rap. Like, besides Shooter and maybe the verse that you said, I feel like you can swap a verse from song 3 and put it on 12 and you would never know the difference. Like, it's just the same thing over and over. Now, knowing the history of the album, I understand why, because Mannie Fresh was a part of the first Carter 2, and Mannie kind of left, and so he lost like all that production. So there's a version of it, if you go listen to Carter 2, the first version of it, with Mannie Fresh beats and some other producers. So we had to re-record the whole thing, and it sounds like it's been like he just came up with these raps, and I don't really like it.
What we now know about Lil Wayne is he just comes up with these raps.
That's what he does. That's what he does.
I
mean, literally what he does. That's his.
He does.
That's his whole thing.
He does. So that album, to me, Carter 2, I think Ambitions of a Hustler is the other song I think that is dope. But or not Ambitions of no, that's 50 Cent song. Gangster Music, or the one he had the video for, where he's got on the bait coat and he's outside. Baby, I'm just doing my own thing.
Hustler music.
Hustler music.
Yeah.
That one's good. That was crazy. Yeah, but the rest of them, to me, I'm not feeling that era of Lil Wayne. But
this is Lil Wayne's best album, hands down, best album.
Justin was saying earlier that we need friction for greatness, and we're having some friction in the chat right now.
Because that was part of what this album started, that run of friction, right? Then the XXL cover after that, and then next thing you know, when he comes back with the Carter 3, he's doing $1 million in a week. Whether or not Cash Money bought that, but he's still the biggest thing in rap.
We don't talk about that. That's fine. So, however you get there, it's all good.
However you get there.
All right, so I'm going to close out this round. This was the category that I was most stressed about, because if you were to look at the pie chart of my 2005 listening habits, there was very little mainstream hip hop happening. I was submerged in underground shit by this point. Even in looking at and researching this year, I was like, wow, there was a lot of music that I really dug, and then a lot of music that I was completely disenchanted by what was happening. Particularly, last night I was going through a run reviewing the music videos, because like that was something I needed a bit more of a refresher on. And man,
Me too.
I was having like PTSD watching some of this stuff, just being like very disenchanted.
It was a weird time in hip hop, bro. It was such a weird time.
It was. And earlier, MidaZ texted me. We never try to talk about the actual content, but you said something to the effect of like, man, there was a lot of great mainstream stuff in 2005. I was like, word? Really? Because I was having the opposite for my personal aesthetic. So I'm going to do something a little tricky here, and I'm down to contest it, but how are we defining mainstream? When I say mainstream, I'm thinking a major label record that is put out by one of the large
Sounds
companies.
like you about to cheat.
Yeah, right.
I'm not about to cheat.
He's throwing all kinds of caveats.
No. I'm just setting it up what I should have done earlier. A mainstream album, because mainstream could be subjective. So I'm just declaring this. Mainstream is a major label record. So
Sure.
For my pick for the best major label record, I got to go with Little Brother, The Minstrel Show. That came out in 2005.
That works.
Yeah, that goes. That works.
Now, let me explain to you, as a child of OK Player, as somebody who literally watched the launch of this group from its incubation, sharing Z-Share links on message boards and seeing them become a, critically acclaimed group. And, I saw them on the High Road Tour in 2003. They were opening up on the Full Circle Tour. I was super invested. I was in college and then in 2004, I booked Little Brother to do a show in Orlando. The University of Central Florida gave me a stupid amount of money, and I probably got them paid more than they were getting paid at that moment. And I booked Little Brother to headline a show before the Minstrel Show came out. And Hunte, this was the start of our friendship and relationship, and he played me the Minstrel Show on a CDR in my Scion XD car. This is a sign of the times, kids. Scion was a car brand that was very hip hop, and you were very cool. You drove a Scion. Take it from me. He played me a version of this album, and my jaw was on the floor. It was so dope, and it felt like such an incredible marker in time that this underground group that was from the South, and I was living in the South, that was upholding all of these values of real hip hop in an age of the tall T, as you said, MidaZ. You could not have told me that this record was not going to change the industry as we knew it. Now, that was not the case. This record did not necessarily break through. And to be honest, if I'm going to keep it a buck, it's not my favorite Little Brother record. I definitely prefer the debut, and sometimes I even prefer the third record, Get Back, which came after this, more than the Minstrel Show. But in terms of like when I'm thinking about records that I just played the shit out of in 2005, it's got to be the Minstrel Show. It was a very important record from a very important group to my personal history and development as a musician, as a music producer, and as a listener and fan. So Minstrel Show all day.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very controversial album, too. I mean, he had, what did he say? I love hip hop, I just hate the niggas in it, right? And that turned off a lot of people already.
Every day, Justin. Every day.
That was your favorite line? That was your favorite
part?
Huh? No, they, but yeah, like he, like that one there. And then there was what was the controversy around, the video got banned from BET.
Too intelligent for BET, they were saying. Yeah.
Was it I'm Loving It, or what was it called?
Yeah, Loving It.
Loving It, right? They said that video and that song was too intelligent for BET. So there ended up being big conversations around that project.
The era of BET Uncut.
Right.
Shout out to Uncut.
Right.
Shout out to Uncut.
But I went to their release party in New York. Yeah, the New York release party concert. And T.I. was there. And Leor Cohen was there. And there was a number of industry. It was a very big industry event. And in retrospect, I look back and I'm like, that was definitely a one-of-one show, because there were expectations around how well that project was going to do commercially. And I think that speaks to the nature of the independent, underground, online movement that they had. And so that was actually a risky thing for Atlantic to even do. And I don't think they've done anything nearly as risky since. But I agree. I think the Minstrel Show is probably my second or third favorite album from them, but my favorite two are The Listening and then Chitlet Circuit Mixtape, which is basically the Listening with like an improved version of it.
Yeah. They were legendary for their mixtapes. I always say that really Little Brother, if you want to like really think about it, has like 6 or 7 albums, because the mixtapes were mostly original joints, and they were like, it never felt like a tossed off thing. It was like songs that were just as good. They were just in between albums, really, in between the major chapters of the records that they were addressing as official LPs,
And I do, like, I was living in New York at that point in time, excuse me. But I remember sending that album and telling everybody in the South and the Carolinas, all my friends, I'm like, yo, you gotta listen. Nobody's rapping like Hunte. You gotta listen to this Little Brother album. And all of them were like, no, Jeezy, we got Gucci and Jeezy down here. I'm sorry. This ain't what we want to hear no more. I'm like, all right, well, that was the battle for being a lyricist in the South. That wasn't Lil Wayne or T.I.
Yeah, I missed the boat on Little Brother. Not that I missed the boat. I was aware early in the game from the listener. But it's music like Little Brother that allowed and made it so possible for the Rock Marcy movement in 2010 to be a real thing in the West Side Gun movement. Because I remember being like, damn, this is the lyrical hip hop I got? Like, this is the lyrical hip hop I got? And mind you, Hunte can rap his dumb ass off, so that's not what I'm talking about. But like, I always thought, like, it took me, I was never into Slum Village. You know what I'm saying? I had to go back. Like, my taste and my maturity had to change. But like, I'm looking for Mobb Deep, bro. Like, this ain't Mobb Deep. Like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? So that was always, it was off for me because I'm like, well, this is like the closest thing in 2005 that I'm gonna get to like what I liked in 98. But god damn, this is so far from that.
When you say you were looking for Mobb Deep, in what respect? Like the lyrical content or the actual
Violent.
like rapping or what?
Meaning like there's a certain kind of, for lack of better term, boom bap that, you know, I grew up on and that I wanted to hear continued in hip hop. And the further, you know, once you 2000, 2001, 2003, 2004, like the further into that you go, the further away from that boom bap we were getting, and there wasn't much of it. That's why it was such a big deal when the listening came out in the first place. It was like, yo, these are the first cats that have Pete Rock energy and, you know, like primo energy. Like that was the kind of stuff that was on the message boards and shit. Like, oh, yo, there's this kind of hip hop coming back. So to me, I was like, okay, it's that kind of hip hop, but it's kind of like the Slum Village version of that kind of hip hop. And I don't want the Slum Village version. Like I want the, you know, I want the gun rap version. You know what I'm saying?
Would
If
you
I
say
could get it.
Would you say
You
they're
want
like
the gangster music.
But I also didn't want the Joe Budden, you know what I mean? Like there was
you didn't
it
want
was
to be
like you had to
shiny?
be way over here or way over here. But like the continuation kind of didn't really happen. You know what I mean? So I kind of tailed off a little bit on the Little Brother steez, but with all due respect, because fucking I acknowledged early, especially on the listening, For You was my shit, and Fonte was rapping his dumb ass off. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then like I'm the guy that was more hype when I got God's Stepson. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I get Nas rapping over this type of stuff. Like, this is kind of what I'm looking for. But yeah.
I will contend that Ninth's remix of Hey Nas is one of my favorite.
I love God's Stepson.
It's one of my favorite like Nas songs from that era, and like the come up from how much I didn't like the original Hey Nas to Ninth's flip of it was like it's incredible growth. Like the dynamic range of like, this song sucks, to like, wait a minute, this song is actually pretty great. Ninth really did him a favor there with that.
I'm with MidaZ. It wasn't my cup of tea. You know, I in the slum villages and all that too. I had to go back.
Yeah.
But so it just wasn't. It wasn't on my radar at the time, and I would have thought that would have classified as underground for me because it's like it's not really there yet. But now going back, it's like no, that is mainstream, 1000%, and it's dope.
It was put out by Atlantic Records. It don't
Yeah,
get much
Atlantic.
more. Leor Cohen's at your release party. You know,
It's kind of a
T.I.'s
big
in the
deal.
front row.
They
It was.
try
I
to
mean,
get-
it was a big risk. Like that was a risky thing, and I think a lot of that had to do with the success of Kanye West, right? You know,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
coming off the college
for
dropout,
sure.
they were taking certain chances. Like Lupe would get that type of investment later, and the little brother, who at that point in time, I guess probably prior to the college dropout dropping, Ye was legitimately concerned about little brother because he thought they were going to beat him to the punch because they were rapping college type raps, but had, you know, still talking about luxury cars and, you know, and were super witty and clever, and they were using similar production.
Yeah.
So Ye was like super scared of them, but their collaboration is one of my favorite too. The Ye and what
I
track was
see
that?
now.
I see now, yeah.
Yeah.
You was hurt, you was on the rebound. Ben and Jerry's, Mickey D's now, and you just want to put all that weight on me now. That's crazy. They witty, dog. Oh my God, it's so crazy.
It was great. All right, I'm going to kick off the next round. Then I'm going to skip. I'm going to go to best beat. So we're going to kick off the best beat round. So this will be interesting based on everything I just said. If you're keeping score at home, there's no way you're going to predict.
Fun round.
There's no way you're going to predict what I'm going to pick as my best beat based on what we just spoke about. All right, so my pick for best beat in 2005 is Mike Jones Still Tippin'. That is
Wow.
Like, guys, I did the research. I combed through everything.
That's
Like,
the beat.
I really revisit everything. That is a crazy beat, and
That's the beat.
it's a really fucking simple beat too. But as a producer, the greatest thing that we need to learn to undo in our minds is doing too much on tracks. And sometimes it's just about the right elements and the minimalism, because unless you're making, RJD2 records or, Flying Lotus records, you don't need to do too much. You need to give space for the vocalists. I would
Yep.
want to hear anybody rapping on the Still Tipping beat, and they will sound dope. That is my pick for best beat.
Great pick.
That is,
Great pick.
when you say I would never guess, that is the understatement of the century. Of the cinch.
I
Jeez
didn't expect you to
Louise.
go into the mainstream bucket at all.
I had to flip
Still
it up.
tipping. Mike
Let's flip it
Jones.
up.
Who?
Yeah. No, the producer of that song is what's his name?
Celie Williams.
Okay, yes. So here's the thing about Still Tipping. Still Tipping, the version that we hear that most people know, the one you're talking about,
Yeah.
is the remix.
Right.
Yeah, the original version is Mike Jones, Slim Thug, Chameleonaire, and they might be one more. It might be 50-50 Twin. But that version, and it's faster. And so that's the version where Slim Thug actually says, "Still tipping on fofos, rapped in." Yeah, so that wasn't the hook. That was his verse.
Right.
And so when they got I think when Salim got the vocals of it and they wanted to redo it, he slowed everything down and kept that and made that the hook. So the first version doesn't really sound like that, really. It's faster, but the second version is better and amazing.
I don't really
the
got
remix.
nothing on it. Only thing that I got is doing my research. For this episode, I happened upon Bow Wow, "Fresh as I'm Is."
Oh,
and it features Mike Jones, which I didn't remember. And then I watched the whole video. I was doing the video research. I watched the whole video, and Mike Jones because I forgot all about Mike Jones' whole existence in life.
Who?
Mike Jones, had a 16 on there. 8 bars of the 16 were repeated.
That was his thing.
That's his style.
And I was like, so you took half the real estate to say the same thing.
By the way,
like,
you're making a really risky move here, taking what could have been one of our picks that we were going to pick the Mike Jones verse on the Bow Wow song as our verse of the year. But I'll allow it.
Well, it would have been the greatest 8 bars you ever heard in your life, because the other 8 just ran it back, But damn, Still Tipping. Wow, you got me on that
one. Justin, what's your pick for best beat?
Kanye West, Gold Digger.
Woo!
I just think the flip was crazy. Initially I thought it was Ray Charles. I didn't realize it was Jamie Foxx in the beginning. So it was just a reinterpretation, rather. Was it interpolation? Whatever.
Interpolation? Yeah.
And I don't care where you were, where I was in the world at that point in time. If I was outside and that beat came on, it was electric in whatever room, whatever whip, wherever I was at that point in time. And I also thought, too, for similar reasons with that project, it was another example of Kanye taking sort of the soul sample, sped up soul sample reputation he had at that point in time to the next level. You know what I mean? And then for the song itself, like the first time I heard that song was on Def Poetry Jam. And so like the last verse of that song is on Def Poetry Jam. And so what it turned into, I didn't think that verse alone was going to turn into a #1 song. You know what I'm saying? And then, but the beat is really what elevates it. So it's something crazy. I love that beat.
Okay. I'm feeling good because y'all didn't pick my beat. And I guarantee when I pull this shit out, it's all hatred from everybody.
Oh, Lord.
Let's go.
All right. There's not a question on what the best beat is of 2005. The best beat of 2005 was made by a young producer out of Cincinnati named Hunte called Runnin' off of the Games album. Running is the beat of 2005. Get the whole fuck out of here with anything else. Running is so crazy
I
to
love
this
that song.
day.
I love that song.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Got to live for today because tomorrow ain't
bruh.
coming to me.
Yo, so listen. There's beats in your life that, like, when you hit a beat for the first time, you're like, I remember hearing Rock Cocaine Flow, right? And being like, what the fuck is this? You know what I'm saying? I remember hearing there was a joint on or Phone Tap. I remember hearing Phone Tap for the first time and being like, this shit is crazy. Running blew me all the and High Tech would do that a lot because the Blast did that. Like, I remember hearing the Blast and being like, the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But Running is the documentary, which we didn't really talk about, but the documentary has a lot of phenomenal beats on it.
Facts.
And to me, Running is the best beat on the album that has 100 phenomenal beats on it. You know what I'm saying? And to me, Running is the best beat on the album. Like, obviously, I'm not gonna say by far, but it's the beat that sticks out immediately when you say, like, yo, the documentary. Like,
he got a lot of them on there though.
He do.
A lot of them.
Running is so crazy. So
I
I'm
had
taking
another
Running.
song. I had another song on the documentary that was like neck and neck, but I won't say it. But yeah, there are great beats on the record.
So I'm taking Running. High Tech, I got your back, bruh. I know what you did in 05. I was there. I'm taking Running.
Okay. I'm not mad at that. Yayo's verse, by the way, was very good on there too.
Yayo had an ill verse on there. Shocking.
He did. He did.
Is it the greatest Yayo verse of all time?
It's possibly. It might be. It might be. Because you thought it was like, Yayo was like the wild card and you thought he was going to be playing around, but he was actually, if I get knocked, I'm running. Like, it was like, okay, Yayo.
It's the best Yayo verse of all time. I'll sign that paperwork.
I'm with you. I'll sign it with you. I'll co-sign you.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, the best beat of 2005, and I love Running, but there's a beat that could come on right after that, and you would forget what Running even sounds like.
Oh, man.
Kanye West. Bum, 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 bum. It's that crack music, nigga. That real crack music.
Crack music. Yeah.
That beat,
Yeah.
the beat, that is like, I don't even know what he was thinking when he made that. The song is flawless. Shout out to Game's on the hook. But to me, crack music, if I was in the studio and he played that, I would be like, I have to be on that. Like he's got again an album with nothing but
bangers on the whole shit.
Right.
Incredible beats. But yeah, crack music was just the production on it, the percussion, the percussion on it, and to not necessarily have the continual snare throughout it, but it's still, the tempo is still there the whole time. It's amazing. And it really is like the epitome of crack music because it sounds like crack. Because it's so addictive to listen to that song over and over.
When you say you don't know what he was thinking, he definitely was thinking, man, in 20 years, I'm going to completely go crazy and flame out. And
yeah.
And I need nitrous immediately. This is what he was thinking back in 05.
Yeah, let me put something in their souls and their spirits that no matter how much they hate me, they can't erase
this.
There you go.
I'm in your DNA. I'm in your fucking DNA now.
Thank you. Yeah. Crack music.
All right. Crack music is a great pick. You're up for the next category. What are we diving into?
Best guest feature.
Ooh.
Best guest feature.
All right. So 05, we talked about girls. We talked about being in. So to be with girls, at some point you're gonna have to go to the club at this time. There's no Instagram. There's none of that. So in the club, there was a song in 05. We hadn't spoke about this guy yet. Nelly.
Okay.
Nelly has a song called Grills. And
Grill?
on Grills,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Grills is 05.
Yeah.
On Grills, Paul Wall's verse is flawless. What it do, baby? It's the Iceman Paul Wall. I got my mouth looking something like a disco ball. And my teeth and my diamonds all hand said I could cause a cold front if I take a deep breath. My teeth gleaming like I'm chewing on aluminum foil, smiling, showing off my teeth, sipping on some potent oil. I put my money where my mouth is and bought a grill, 30 stacks, let them know I'm so for real. He said the furniture in my mouth is like VVS. It's because it's something success. I got the neck wear and wrist wear is captivating, and it's my smile to keep these onlookers spectating. It's flawless. It's flawless. It's flawless. And with that song, the backstory is like JD and Nelly came back from the strip club. More girls again. This was the year of girls. They came back from the strip club and they recorded this song late after the strip club, and they were like, had the whole thing, and they were like, if we're doing a song about grills, we have to have Paul Wall. So they did, and they pitched it to Paul, and he was like, absolutely. And he came in and knocked it out the park. And to this day, it's such a feel good verse. It's when that song comes on, it's just it
So
takes you back.
you got that verse
Yes.
over Drive Slow, homie?
I love that verse on Drive Slow. Yes. Drive Slow, man, that's an amazing verse. And I thought about that because I have trap music right there. But that verse, the Drive Slow verse catches you off guard if you're not a Paul Wall fan. You're like, wait a minute, this guy actually can rap about,
Because Paul Wall out-rapped Ye on Drive Slow.
He did. He 1000% did. Yeah, he did. But that verse is like you're impressed by Paul Wall because most people don't know he can do that. I'm a huge Paul Wall and Chameleon. I'm a huge Chameleonaire fan. So I knew Paul Wall could do that 2002.
Yeah.
But what he did on Grills to me was the perfect representation of him. So when like he comes out, or if you had to like play a song at his funeral, it's that verse. That's Paul Wall.
Right.
MidaZ, what's your pick for best guest verse?
Dear Summer, I know you gonna miss me. Come on, baby.
Nikes and crisp tees.
Come on, man. So you mean to tell me, first of all, let me tell you what I would do. I'm part of Gold Chain Music. You know, I work with my big brother Planet Asia. And you know, there's no way in any version of my life that on the next MidaZ the BEAST solo album, Planet Asia is gonna have a solo song on the MidaZ the BEAST. What a guy. We're definitely not doing that. Because there's other songs on that album. Like I wasn't aware that there were other songs on that album. Because as far as I'm concerned, Jay-Z, it's a one-song album that's from Jay-Z, and he's not even the artist of the fucking album. Dear Summer is so crazy. I remember that being something that Hot 97 was running real crazy at the time. Yeah. And that was ending up on mixtapes and ending up here and ending up there from just because there wasn't a lot of Jay happening at the time. It was like, what year was the retirement album? Was that nearby?
That was
2003. The Black album was 03.
03,
yeah. So he wasn't really doing nothing for a couple of years on some like, you know what I'm saying? Dear Summer, crazy. That would be my guest verse and my verse. Both. Is it cheating that it's a guest verse, even though it's just a Jay-Z song?
No, it counts because it's, I would say it counts.
All right.
And you know what's weird? Jay did that again when he put, I don't know if it was just a thing with him and Bleak and Beanie, where he put the song. Do you remember the song Anything? We had a video for it too. He put it on the Beanie Siegel album. It's like it's on the end. It's amazing. It's one of Jay-Z's best songs.
He had the investment that he had in these albums being successful was
but
real
it's,
thing.
It's different. It's different putting it as the first track versus the last track. Because the last track is almost just like a bonus track. Like, just see if we can bump the sales on this. And Anything is a dope song, but it was definitely like, hey, Hard Knock Life worked. Let's see if we can do it again. But putting it as the first song on the album is definitely it's a bold move.
But was that like retribution because on some Jay-Z albums, Bleak is the first
Reasonable Doubt, right? Or no, Reasonable Doubt, or what am I thinking of?
Volume 2.
Volume 2.
Volume 2.
Bleak is first. Yep.
Yeah,
that was bold.
Could be.
Right. That was bold. New and improved Jay-Z, that's bold. New improved Jay-Z. Okay.
All right. If you say so.
And only to find out Jay-Z wrote the verse.
That's crazy.
As he was known to do in the 1900s and early 2000s. Justin, what you got for your best guest verse?
Lupe Fiasco, Touch the Sky. Easy for me. And I
Fantastic.
think, just the structure of that verse is so multi-layered, right? Like when he says, when he closes the verse, let me end the verse right where the horns are, right? And then the horns come right in. But that's really the third bar on a 4-bar setup, generally speaking. And he starts off with saying he's looping the third, right? So even the subtleties within that, incredibly, if virality was what it was today, that song would have been out of here. But then it's even the level of simple complexity that he became known for, I think, over the course of his career. When you have like bars like, I'm trying to stop lying like a mum-ra. Now, I'm a Thundercats fan. I grew up with Thundercats, right? And when he said, I'm trying to stop lying like a mum-ra, but I'm not lying when I'm laying on the beat, right? So it's like the mum-ra was the villain to the Thundercats. And all they were trying to do was stop lions. Lying on Lord of the Thundercats. But it's the double entendre of like, she's trying to be a better person, stop trying to lie. And so it's just whole seamless. And if you really wanted to, you can make a documentary on that verse. From the nuances to how it's structured to the multi-layered entendres. But for it to be such high-level lyricism, it's so accessible because he's not using, 6-7 syllable words. He's not trying to rhyme in a complex fashion. He's just saying a whole lot in a little space. And that level of simple complexity, nobody was touching that in 2005.
And like the first time most of us heard Lupe Fiasco, like to be honest too. So an important verse for that reason too.
100%.
I'm gonna, we're kind of circling around a lot of the same waters here, but my pick for best guest verse has got to be Jay-Z on Kanye's Diamonds from Sierra Leone remix. That was like, that felt like a very important moment. That was his sort of State of the Union, addressing a lot of the talk, the rumors, what was happening with the dynasty. It gave us, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Like that's, it was a show-stopping moment for sure. It just felt important. It felt important the first time you heard it. It was even the way that he comes in, like, I got it from here, yay, damn. Like, it was
fire.
Everybody sit down, like, take a seat. Sean Carter is about to rap, and we are going to listen to what he has to say on this Diamonds remix. I'm picking the next category. I'm going to go with Best Indie Underground Album is what we're going to pull up here. So as I said, I was definitely leaning more in this direction than, more commercial stuff at the time. So I have a few different picks. I'm pretty split here, but, fuck it. I'm going to go all the way underground on this. I got to go with my guy Blueprint with his 1988 album, put out on the Rhymesayers record label. Blueprint, I was a big fan of from like the Soul Position days. A lot of what he was doing, around the Scribble Jam era, he was already somebody that people were kind of checking for. But he put out an album in 2005 that was an homage to 1988. He produced the entire thing himself. He was absolutely going nuts in terms of his writing and his performance on it. It is a record that I don't expect a lot of people to necessarily know because Blueprint is not necessarily a household name when we're talking about 2005. But this was a record. And I remember too, I think in 2005, I was about to start writing for OK Player, and you had to do a submission of like, let's see, like a review, a sample of you reviewing a record. And I reviewed this record, and I was so geeked about it that I like dedicated an unnecessary amount of space to just quoting the lyrics because he had so many great lyrics. He was talking about the state of in underground hip hop and just burning the sort of torch for like making real shit and decrying what had been happening in the industry. This is a record that holds a special place in my heart. He just reissued it on vinyl, I believe, for the first time. I got a copy of it
and
somewhere.
And doing his anniversary show for that, the 20-year anniversary show is like now. It's like this month.
Exactly. So that's a special record for me. That is I'm going super underground for my underground pick. Blueprints, 1988.
Shout out my dude Blueprint. There may or may not be another Blueprint reference as we continue on from somebody that is on this panel.
As we proceed to give you what you need. Can we still say that, or is that? Do you have to throw that statement out all the way? I don't know. Justin, what do you got for underground?
Sean Price, Monkey Bars. Easy. Easy. It's young. I mean, it's one of the hardest projects, period, in my opinion. Two, I think, everything Duck Down was doing right at that point in time with sort of reintroducing Smith & Wesson, Helter Skelter, Buckshot, under the same, like, similar marketing, taking these artists from the late 90s who were celebrated and putting them out with a fresh look in the early 2000s, in 2005, like that whole early 2000s run when they were putting these projects out, to me, ended up being a real statement in the sense of, while we were talking about how critical people were of hip hop in 2005 in general, you're in a space where there's so much consolidation in media from a label standpoint to television and radio standpoint. So everybody around every region is hearing the same albums, hearing the same songs, turning on Sucker Free Sunday and watching the same videos. Regionalism was gone. And here comes Duck Down, particularly this project, representing for a whole different sound of hip hop and doing it really big at the same time. Right. And I think when I look at what Duck Down did with that, it looks a lot like what Mass Appeal is doing now by releasing a bunch of different projects. So it's pioneering in that. But if you just go top to bottom, from production to bars, you got Sean Price stepping away from his Ruck moniker, taking his standing tall with his own name straight out. You got Ninth Wonder production on there. You got Crisis production on there. It represented for a whole side of hip hop that I loved so much in the 90s in a fresh way in the early 2000s with fresh producers around them at the same time. I can listen to Onion Head for the rest of my life and everything will be fine.
The thing about that album that I just gotta, so that was clearly the pick that I was gonna go with if I had a chance.
It was on my list as well. It was on my list as well.
The thing about that record is that, so I love the first Helter Skelter album, right? But to me, and I've had this conversation with people a lot, Helter Skelter was rock, and then there's another guy in the group too. Like that was kind of how I looked at Helter Skelter as a 90s head. It was like, the other guy, but like
that was the prevailing feeling.
Yeah.
I do know some people, Justin, and I call bullshit on these motherfuckers. I do know people that's like, nah, my favorite was Sean Price. I was like, no, he wasn't.
Revisionist. That's revisionist.
Nobody's favorite was Sean Price. Was Ruck. From Ruck and Rock.
You probably didn't even know his name was Sean Price. Probably didn't even know his real name then.
It was Rock, and then it was his partner. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And the crazy shit about hearing. So I remember when they started doing the promotion for those 3 albums for the chemistry and right, and I remember being like, the other guy from Helter Skelter is doing a solo album. Like, why would you have him do the album? And I know that P was doing he had started to do some like solo songs and some freestyle. Some things were starting, but I hadn't. First thing I saw was that advertisement, because the advertisement was in the magazines. It was like a
right.
three-fold spread for that artwork or whatever. And I'm like, and he changed his name? I was like, God, I'm all confused.
You're right.
I remember hearing Boom Bye. I mean, I'm just going like, and then Peep My Words, and I'm just like,
right. Everything
what
words.
the fuck is going on here? And P, I know they credit, and rightfully so, they credit Rock Marcy with the revolution that Rock was able to bring in. But you can't talk about that without talking about Sean Price.
Can't do it.
And what he did 5 years earlier.
Right.
From a quote unquote boom bap perspective, and bringing so going back to what we were talking about before, like that's what I was looking for.
Right.
Was this shit. Like, oh, okay. Word. Like, all right, you know what I mean? So like that album was a big game changer to me.
Same here.
Monkey
It was so honest, and it was hilarious at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Talking about how broke he was, talking about, just being like
the brokest rapper you know.
Yeah, it felt like revolutionary at the time that you could be that self-effacing, but also like still, but I will fucking kick your ass.
Right.
It wasn't emo. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm like a flawed human being. It was like, I'm fucking broke. I have all these relationship problems, but like, don't fucking look at me the wrong way. I'm gonna fucking bust your ass.
The relationship stuff is so funny. He's over there talking about. He's like, what did he say? He said, got to think about my ex to get erect. Got to take X when I'm erect. Like, dog, you do not like this chick. You do not like this chick at all.
Wow.
That's
crazy. Boom Bye is not on this album, but what was I talking? Oh yeah, Boom Bye is on this. Yeah.
Boom Bye is on there.
Crazy.
Yeah, to me that's a perfect album.
I wouldn't call I Love You, Bitch.
Right.
Like the title is I Love You, Bitch. Like,
that's
crazy. Brokest rapper you know? Who is rapping like that? Brokest rapper you know? Like, oh man, I love that album. Because I didn't get to pick Monkey Bars, and I'm so hurt. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna come back with an often forgotten album, but was instrumental in my life. I won't talk about it much. We'll keep it moving. But the GZA Grandmasters dropped in 2005, and that album was big for me because my first project that I put out as a solo artist was in 2005, which was a remix of Grandmasters called MidaZ vs. Muggs, because Muggs had dropped the instrumentals to that project, and I was trying to do the reverse Knife Wonders. So I remixed the whole album, and that was kind of my first solo thing that I had out. But I just remember hearing Grandmasters and being like, Wu-Tang's not dead 100%. This is, like, we there's still hope, you know what I'm saying, for the W to shine. But that album was crazy. I thought it was really dope. Probably, outside of Liquid Swords, probably my favorite GZA album, like outside of Liquid Swords. Yeah, really crazy record, and that would be my number 2. Shout out, let me not say that because MJ might have it. So
we'll do our honorable mentions at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know you don't have this one. I know you don't have this one. So mine, it's 2005. All right, so let me explain the thing. So in 2005, Texas started to come on the scene. This is where you spoke about Mike Jones earlier, Paul Wall, Chamillionaire, Slim Thug. Those were like the front runners of hip hop at the time. But before that, Chamillionaire and Paul Wall were in a rap group together. And the first album they had was called Get Your Mind Correct. It's just maybe like 2006 2, something like that, 3, something like that. And what happened was they all kind of got solo deals, and Chamillionaire and Paul Wall broke apart, but they were still contractually signed as a group because they were in a group together. And so the label, it was some issues with money on the first album. The label was paid in full, which they weren't. But yeah, so with the label, they still had the ownership of these records of them together. And so as they were blowing up separately, this is their time to cash in on the both of them at their primes at the time. And so they put together the records that they had left of them, and it's an album called Controversy Sales. And while this was controversial was because Chamillionaire, he was the mixtape messiah. He was the first mixtape rapper before Lil Wayne. He was the mixtape everything. So on all his mixtapes, he was saying my album is going to be called Controversy Sales. Controversy Sales. So they steal the name and use it as a Chamillionaire and Paul Wall album together. And they beat him. Yeah, they beat him to the punch, which is why Chamillionaire's album ended up being called Sound of Revenge in 2005. But it was supposed to be Controversy Sales. And he has like a cult-like following. So all of us went and bought this album thinking there's no internet at this time for Chamillionaire to explain this to us.
Right.
So we just like, oh, okay, I guess this is him and Paul are cool and they putting this out. So we all bought it. And I think it ended up going like 30 on the hip hop charts and something like that. So it went pretty high. But the name of the album is called Controversy Sales. It's Chamillionaire and Paul Wall. And it's incredible. It's incredible. I think Chamillionaire, on one of the songs, he says, if you play, he said it's not even 2005 yet. He said, but if you play this in like 2000 and it's like in now time, maybe like 2020 or something like that, it's still going to sound like the future. And so when I go back and listen to it, it's still like Chamillionaire is such an underrated rapper that just, I think he kind of falls victim, if you don't know, to what Joe Budden falls victim to, which is Pump It Up. Like Joe Budden falls victim to Pump It Up, and he's a way better MC than that. And Chamillionaire falls victim to Riding Dirty, and he's a way better MC than that. So yeah, so that's my pick. There's a few features on there. There's Devin Dude on there. There's Lil Flip, who was huge at the time. So they cashed in. The record label did the right thing. It's an independent album, but it's definitely super dope. It's called Controversy Sales.
So let me ask this, as somebody who's not super up on the canon of Chamillionaire, does he like acknowledge that album today, or is it really just a blemish, like that almost doesn't count for him? Is it still like the redheaded stepchild of the catalog?
Definitely the redheaded stepchild. He doesn't count it, and he spoke about it. He's like, I don't like it. They posted my vocals under beats that I didn't even rap on, but Paul Wall was still cool with the label.
Got it.
And Paul Wall's a positive guy, so he's like, all right, contractually I owe you. So he went in and rapped newer verses, but Chamillionaire's verses were older. So Chamillionaire, I'm sure in his ears like a train wreck. But to the fan who just wants to hear this, it's incredible.
So Chamillionaire basically said, you studied my rhyme, then you laid your vocals after mine.
Yes.
That's a bitch move, something that a homo rapper would do. Okay, all right, I got you. All right, no doubt.
That's exactly what happened.
They gave him the posthumous treatment while he was still alive. They did like a Tupac album on it.
Yes, and he was contractually bound by it, so he couldn't do anything.
That's a crazy story.
I, for one, am shocked because I've never heard of record labels treating artists unfairly in my life. So this just sounds crazy to me. We're going to break the internet with this story here. It's wild. All right, so MJ, what do we have next?
All right, let's do album cover.
All right.
Album cover. First of all, there's two versions of this album cover, and both of them would be my pick. It would be The Game, the documentary. With his son. There's one where Game is his son on one, and then the other one is Game sitting on the rim on the Dayton with the 100 Stokes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. both of those, and I want to say they were shot. I forgot the guy's name. White guy, also shot.
Is it B plus or no? He's
Um,
white or is he Mexican?
I think he's white, and he also shot Chingy's Right There cover. He was shooting a lot of covers at that time. I have to look up his name,
Yeah, I'm trying to
but
look it up too.
yeah, he shot Chingy's Right There cover. He shot. His name is right there. I don't know if it's Mannion or.
Oh, Jonathan Mannion.
That's it.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
He's a legend.
That's it. Yes. So yeah, that one, and I remember with the DVD, if you bought, first of all, G Unit, shout out to G Unit, because the G Unit did a thing where they sold more records because of fans like me. Is you could buy the regular version or you could buy the deluxe version. And the deluxe version always had a DVD with it.
Right.
And so I would buy both because they were two different covers. So that one, I remember on that, they had the video. This is basically all this stuff would have ended up on YouTube or Instagram now. But back then, $20 more just
Right.
to see the photo shoot that Game did with this, where he comes in with his son and
Yes.
he's got the rim and the white background. So I saw the whole thing, which is why it just was extra special to me, because he was explaining what was going on. But
MJ, you were stimulating the economy so much in 2005 that you were buying records that Chameleonaire didn't want you to buy, and you were still just like, "Yo, let me take that."
I definitely was helping the whole rap game out. I was buying anything. If you put it out and packaged it, sold.
Yeah.
So so Documentary is my pick for album cover of the year. Both of them.
It's a great cover. It's a great cover, and I've been getting very into AI animation recently and taking album covers and animating them. We've been doing an event we just started with Rascast at FYI at Will.i.am's FYI campus, and it's basically a hip hop night, and we illustrated a bunch of album covers. I used this AI software, and the first one that I did was the Game's documentary, because I was like, it's such a clean image and it would look so dope. And sure enough, it was like him sitting there and then him kind of moving and him looking at the wheel. And I'll send it to you afterwards because
I want to see it. I definitely want to see it.
Yeah, it's a very simple cover too, and also Jonathan Mannion did the Reasonable Doubt album cover. That was like his probably biggest record that he did before that. So yeah. Great pick. MidaZ, what you got?
2005 sucked for album covers, in my opinion. Not a lot of good ones. A lot of people looking like this, and a lot of people standing in front of cars.
Oh yeah,
it was tough. Actually, I didn't enjoy. I was going through like, man, what was a good album cover for that year? And I was like, these suck. All of these suck. So with having to pick one of the shit ones, to get an album cover for my pick, I'm gonna go with Monkey Bars again, because Sean Price beating up gorillas works for me, and and it was just cool artwork, so that's what I'm gonna go with.
I have no notes, but fantastic.
Yeah, that's the one I was actually gonna go with too, and because it's the inverse of 100 men versus one gorilla. But it's one Sean Price versus 100 gorillas. And he's winning.
He's winning.
He wins.
Of course he's winning.
That's what Monkey Bars. It's all about Monkey Bars.
We should have got Sean Price versus the 100 gorillas. I got it.
Right. That's because that's how ferocious of a lyricist and MC he really was in 2005. Rest in peace, Sean Price.
Yeah.
That actually throws my whole thing off. I'm going to go with The Minstrel Show because I think, one, to your point, there were a lot of side faces in 2005.
A lot of side faces.
A lot of side faces. Like Commons B is like that.
Yeah.
I do like the Danger Doom album cover quite a bit, to be honest. But the thing I like about The Minstrel Show is like they really you could look at that album cover and see what it's about. Right? It's very clean. It's very, very to the point without being too much on the nose. Right? They didn't go full Drake. Right? They didn't paint their face. They didn't paint their faces black. They just made the minstrel face. And, I look at, it's funny when I think about album covers in the 90s, they all seem so fatalistic to me. Like they're all so dark. Like even the Fugees, the score is just like all black in the face,
Yeah.
Redman, There Is a Dark Side just looks like death. Like, this is a very fatalistic era. And so it gives me that vibe, to be honest, but in a different kind of way, right? They're not fatalistic about life and the challenges of the community, people experience in certain communities. It gives me that sort of score feel, but like a spoof on it, because that is the battle that they're fighting in the music industry at that point in time. So it always resonates with me on that level.
People talk about that record as being a concept album, and it sort of is with the interstitial like skits and everything, but really I think the heavy lifting of it is literally its title and that album cover for sure.
I mean, it was supposed to be the second of the trilogy, because the next one was supposed to be the blaxploitation film.
Right.
But then, Little Brother started running into their own problems over there. But
things fall apart. Shout out to the Roots, but things fell apart for them. No, that's a great pick. That was definitely on my list as well. But I think for my pick, I'm going to lean super underground again on this. And I almost actually picked this for my favorite indie album, but y'all fuck with Edon, Beauty and the Beat? Does that mean anything to anybody?
No.
I knew I was going to be the alone in the outfield on this, especially after I'll reveal that Damone Carter from Dad Bod Rap Pod was going to join. I think he would have filled out some of the more, indie niche things. But I'll send you the album cover in the chat right here. But it's
I really thought you were going to pick Little Kim, The Naked Truth. That's what I thought you were.
Not even the best Little Kim album cover. What are we
it's
talking
definitely
about?
Not
it's definitely not the best one.
That didn't even work, the link I just sent. But okay, I'll just describe it because, it's a podcast, so we can, describe visual things. But Edon's Beauty and the Beat is this like really dope record that is somehow part psychedelic almost, because he's sampling a lot of like prog rock and like, sort of like very surreal sounding shit. But then it's also like an homage to like old school hip hop, like pre Def Jam, like Cold Crush Brothers, Treacherous 3. And so the album cover literally delivers on that. It's got like all of these colored like swirls, and it looks almost like you're looking at a black, like a lava lamp, or like, looking at a black light. But then it's a collage of all of the old school rappers that he sort of is like nodding to in the record. It's a fantastic album. It's, for anybody listening, I would say worth a listen for sure. Also, one of those guys that I listened to many times and did not realize he was white until way later. But it's always fun when that sneaks up on you. But yeah, that's my pick for best album cover. We're moving on. I'm hiding my backpack in this episode here, so I'm gonna go with. Fuck it, let's do best music video. This was interesting. Last night I really crammed, and like the night before we recorded this right now, I would basically pulled up a YouTube playlist that had every music video somebody had compiled from 2005. There were a lot of fucking bad music videos in 2005.
It was a bad time, bro. Bad time.
It was, here's the problem. The budgets were still very high. And so a lot of things had this like ultra glossy, like sheened over thing that like looks bad in hindsight. And the other thing that sort of worked against it was that technology was still new. So you had a lot of like things like, oh, we did this on a green screen. And like at the time, I think it was kind of cool. But in 2025, it's like, yeah, we can tell. Like you did this on a green screen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
But I did discover a music video yesterday that, I'm not going to lie, I'd never seen before in my life. And I was like, this is actually the best music video of the year. Dilated Peoples put out a music video for the song Back Again. It's got cameos from Be Real, Alchemist, and a bunch of other people. And they shoot it all in a way that's made to look like it's a singular shot. So it's like rotating on this rooftop, but they're playing with it, and every time they're obviously cutting, but they're setting up different environments. But it's like the camera never stops rotating, and it was fucking really good. And I was delighted in this sea of a lot of 2005 to me tastes like I'm eating sugar-free candy. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but when I listen to a lot of the sounds of 2005, I feel like I'm eating chemicals that are not good for me and are not like as good as some chocolate or, whatever I could eat. but this felt like a breath of fresh air. I was like, this is dope. I like a good, I was the guy who bought like the Spike Jonze DVD of like the music video directors and all these people who were doing like the Far Side's Drop, and Bjork music videos and stuff. I like a good, concept and doing things practically. And yeah, I mean, this is a podcast. If you're listening to this, you're just going to have to go and watch, and we'll put a link to it in the episode notes if you're watching on YouTube. But yeah, Dilated Peoples back again, a song that I did not know how to music video until yesterday.
Me either. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah,
me neither. I had no clue.
Justin, what do you got?
Yeah, 2005.
Hard time.
Yeah, it was a hard time. I almost picked this album for my mainstream album of the year, and it's Common's B. And Testify, I almost picked that for beat of the year because that Testify beat's crazy too.
That's my pick. That's
right.
my pick. That's a great video.
Yeah, the video is amazing, and the way oh my God, what's her name?
Taraji.
The way she starts laughing at the end of the video. You know what I mean? Because for people not familiar with the song Testify, it's a story about a woman who basically pits her man and someone else against each other, and then he goes to court, and she testifies against him in court, and then all of a sudden she starts laughing because she actually is the one who committed the crime. And so I like narrative stories, I like narrative music videos, I like narrative songs, and they all came together so well in that music video. And when I think back to that time, there's really only two music videos that really jump out at me when I even think about 2005. In sort of a way where I'm like, oh, this is really cool. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this actually clean is fresh. And Testify is one of them. The other one is the Gold Digger video, because I just think it's hilarious that Kanye kind of off beat, but he's on beat when he's like snapping his head back. I always thought that was funny. But the Testify video, I think, was everything I thought the video could be. And I think they executed perfectly on that.
I agree that was my pick as well. And that was a lot of times people don't know that they're brothers, but Wood Harris and Steve Harris are both in the video together.
Right.
And Bill Duke as well. So yeah, great video.
Great video.
Man, I'm gonna go with Jeezy Go Crazy.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go with Jeezy Go Crazy, and specifically for the Ghostface Killer cameo, which at the time was like, oh shit, like there's a New York guy here. Like, this is fire. You know
it's the
what I'm
Leonardo
saying? Like,
DiCaprio meme of him pointing at the screen, like, oh.
Yeah, like, it was because it was one of those things where I thought that line was so ill when I heard it on the album. And then, because I heard the song way before I saw the video. It wasn't one of those things where you kind of seen it simultaneously. And then it was just like, it would be dope if, like, Ghost was in the video. And then it was like, oh, he's in the video. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go with Go Crazy from Jeezy. I just remember, and that video ran on BET religiously for the amount of time that it was the joint. Like, it ran. So
Sucker Free
I saw
Sunday
that video
mainstay.
a lot in that era.
Sucker Free Sunday.
So Jeezy Go Crazy is my pick.
MidaZ, it speaks to the lack of options you felt, that you're like, I'm picking this video because Ghostface was in it for a bar.
Ghostface was in it. It's the best I got.
Funny.
It was rough, man. It was rough. Rough year.
Mine was out of two artists. It was out of Common, The Corner.
Ooh, the Corner's
right, yeah, crazy. That's a crazy beat too.
Great beat. That felt like cold Chicago.
Yeah,
that was perfect. Kanye directed the video. But my pick was also a Jeezy pick. Now Jeezy stepped it up even more in this video. We spoke about it earlier. Soul Survivor.
Soul Survivor.
Yeah.
Soul Survivor. He basically reenacts Paid in Full.
Right.
And so and you had a Ghostface cameo in yours.
Yeah.
I got a Beanie Siegel playing.
He was running the shop, the dry cleaner.
Yeah. So he was. Yeah, that was that. It was like Jeezy was really tapping in everywhere. Like, I think that was the Def Jam part of, hey, let's get you in this market. and that, you know, you're speaking their language, but you're not the way you rap in the South, and this is how we do it. And they did it, you know, by little tricks like that. Ghostface, Beanie Siegel, you know, Paid in Full, the movie, and this was that. It was storyboard fashion. It was a great video for a great song.
Yeah, I mean, great
Not
work.
mad
I'm
at it.
sorry that you had to go last in that category because there was, but actually you had really good picks for that one too. So I'm glad we didn't steal.
I think we all picked the four best videos.
Right.
Oh
Right.
man,
that year.
I was gonna pick Fresh as I'm Is, but
Love
I
it.
just fell back.
There's a lot of terrible G Unit affiliated music videos from this era too.
Control. I saw
Yeah,
Out of
Control's
Control
terrible.
with Mobb Deep. One of the worst videos I've ever seen in my entire life.
Window
50
Shock.
doing,
Yeah.
A lot of 50 doing this that year. A lot of this.
50 oddly looked very airbrushed, like even his face and
Very
things. It just
airbrushed.
like it didn't. I didn't understand it. All right, what do we got next, MJ?
What's left? Producer,
artist, and verse.
Okay, let's go producer.
Right.
I'm not gonna try to reinvent the wheel here. It's right there. It's Kanye West.
It's Kanye West.
Yeah,
Kanye West.
That's the answer.
You know, yeah, I think he touched on pretty much most of these albums that we're talking about, probably except Jeezy. But from Game to his own Late Registration to Common, I think Kanye was just the Kanye that we all love. This is the old Kanye in which he's referring to that we all miss.
Yeah.
He was just he was all over the place in the best way possible. I think he had what all did he from not just his albums, but I think he had a guest. Was Guess Who? What year was Guess Who's Back with Scarface?
I don't think it was 05. There
was
is a song that he did do that I don't want to say because I might use it for another category. But yeah, he was all over the place. But Guess Who's Back was way earlier. Yeah.
It's either 02 or 03, one of those two.
Okay. But yeah, Kanye is my pick. You know, self-explanatory. Kanye West.
Yeah. MidaZ, what you got?
I'm gonna go with Shawty Red. Some of my favorite beats that year came out of the Jeezy album, and I'm a big fan of like producers who didn't let their sound go to everybody. And so like I love that if you want 40, you gotta go to Drake. You know what I mean? Like if you like what 40 does, you gotta go to Drake to get that. You know what I'm saying? I kinda like that. And Shawty Red was another one where like the texture that he had, that sound, you had to go to Jeezy to get that. You know what I'm saying? And you didn't really get it throughout every album in the South. You know what I'm saying? You got it from Jeezy. And it's one of the things that made Jeezy's album stand out to me amongst everything. It's that he had a producer that gave he didn't do every beat on the album, but he did a lot of them. And that sound only really lived there. You know what I'm saying? Like it didn't really live elsewhere. So I loved what Shawty Red was doing that year, and I would say Shawty Red for me.
Yeah. D Rich was producing some of those other ones for Jeezy, and they have a great sound.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Danger Mouse.
Interesting.
Just off the strength of Danger Doom. You know what I mean? I thought those were really eclectic, airy beats, uplifting. Really felt like felt like I was watching Cartoon Network. You know what I'm saying? The soundscapes that he put together on that. That's one of my favorite projects, period, that year. It's probably my second favorite Doom album. I know that can be controversial.
That is quite controversial, Justin. You need to listen. Me and Sean did Making Illmatic.
Yeah.
It was one of our early Making Illmatics. We did Danger Doom.
Yeah.
You would love that.
Oh, yeah. I definitely want to check that out. That's dope.
But wait, why are you saying he would love it? I think we largely said that we didn't like the album as much.
That's why he would love it.
Yeah, but still, I like it's always better when you got a contrary opinion. You know what I mean?
True.
But but I just love that. To me, it's a back and forth project. It puts me in that world. You know, I think for me personally, if I feel completely immersed in a project at the same time, You know what I mean? If I'm taken into the world and I don't want to leave, that's a good thing. And so I think Danger Mouse found the right note between Cartoon Network. What was the cartoon thing? What was it called? What was that run of cartoons?
Aqua Teen
Hunger Force.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force, yeah.
And MF Doom. And I don't think that's those aren't easy bridges to merge. And I think he nailed it on that.
Let me tell you something.
But the answer is Kanye West, guys. I mean, the real answer is Kanye West. The answer is Kanye West.
And I was going to say, from everything I've heard about the Danger Doom album, I think it was just difficult for Danger Mouse to work with Doom alone because he was not being his most responsible self during the making of this record. He was definitely fucking around and basically just trying to come up off some Cartoon Network money.
Right. But see, that's another reason. That's why I produced the year. You know, what do you got to go through to craft something extraordinary?
That is a great point. I don't think anybody dealt with as much as what he had to deal with in landing the plane on making that album. So, yeah. So as you said, the producer of the year is Kanye West. So everything else is just consolation prizes. I partially, just to mix it up, I was going to say Ninth Wonder because he honestly, you know, between the Duck Down stuff and the Little Brother stuff, it's good. But I'm just to mix it up and just to, you know, spread some of the love. I'm gonna throw it to Ant from Atmosphere because he produced 2 records that year, and I think it was the best era of what he was doing, and it was also coincidentally the last time he was really able to sample because he was starting to get too above the radar, where they started to have to be like, yeah, we can't, you know, just put out these records and not clear the samples anymore. But he did. The Atmosphere record that year, which was You Can't Imagine How Much Fun We're Having, which to me is like the best production I've ever heard on their stuff. Super, like, you know, a lot of soul loops, a lot of hard drums, very sample heavy. And then also that same year, he did the Felt 2 project with Merce and Slug, which again was like basically, it was kind of just running with the formula that Kanye had popularized at that time as well. Just taking and speeding up soul loops and doing some dope shit. So I want to diversify my portfolio here, so I'm going to throw Ant in there as my pick because those were good production showcases, especially for a producer to do a whole album, let alone drop 2 whole albums in one year is definitely impressive.
If I had a honorable mention who we didn't say, it would be Jermaine Dupri. JD, I think that year he had Grills, obviously. He had everything Mariah Carey. Don't Forget About Us. We Belong Together. What else does he have? Shake It Off. Fresh as I'm Is. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And something else for Bow Wow. Let Me Hold You Down.
Yep. Let me hold you.
Yeah.
He had it. Yeah. So I would say JD, and I think he had also the other song with Nelly and Janet Jackson.
Oh yeah.
One song. I love that beat.
Oh
that
yeah.
Beat is underrated.
Well, if you follow JD on IG, he'll tell you, I made the beat. I made it.
Oh, he'll tell you. I mean, because he's a Southern producer, and they don't really get their credit down here. So
I made it.
Right.
He'll let you know.
He'll let you know.
He's definitely underappreciaed overall.
Super underappreciated. Yeah.
Yeah. And I Think They Like Me remix.
Oh yeah. He was in the video. They did the video for that too.
He got a dope verse too. He's one of the best rapping producers.
I would agree.
He's definitely underrated. All right, I'm gonna go. We'll kick off the penultimate round here with best verse. Some of them we already have said because they got picked for best guest verse. There's the one that I think is the best verse, but then I always feel this need to just mix it up so we're not just saying the same things. I don't know. What do I do here? I'm I'm gonna go with a more traditional answer for me. "Little Brother's All for You." Fonte's verse on that was definitely like one of the more personal and like vulnerable verses, where he was talking about his struggles with relationships and how much he felt like the people in his life wanted to see him fail as a father, as a single father. It was definitely one of those moments where it's like, okay, this guy who was really, already proving his worth as somebody who had a nasty pen and like, just excellent skills as an MC. It was very autobiographical, and it was very, I don't know, just for lack of a better term, just kind of moving. And I think that we measure the metrics of a lot of MCs and judge them on things, but not everybody can bar out and then also get very, very personal and intimate in their writing. So while it's not necessarily like throw this on your mixtape, it's like we got the saddest verse that Fonte recorded. To me, it stands out in a time when vulnerability is still not something that is necessarily always showcased in these songs. So yeah, I got to give it to Fonte for that.
Fontegolo.
Fonte had a lot of great verses on that project.
Yeah.
Fonte is crazy, in retrospect. I mean, even in real time, at that point in time, he was another artist that could be really simple in approach, but really multi-layered in how he connected with people. I mean, even from the what was that line on the yo-yo? His verse on the yo-yo was like hip hop quotable in the source,
Yeah.
which was, and it's just a verse about the contradictions with like Hotep, Hotep contradictions before even Hotep was a term.
Right.
And there's a whole lot of that on the Minstrel Show too.
Yeah, that was great. Justin, what's your pick?
I'm gonna go with Kanye West Gone. Pick the first or the last verse. And again, I know we keep coming back to the same names, and I think that's also just emblematic of the year and the year and the times. But particularly that last verse, again, there's a lot of just straight up flexing on the mic from Ye when it comes to him as a rapper, which isn't necessarily, I think, the way that we mostly think about Ye. And at that point in time, I personally think he was doing more rapping then than he ever did later in his career.
Yeah.
Right. So to that point, the influences that he had from Consequence and from Rhymefest, I think you can still hear stylistically. But there's a whole lot of him all over it. And the layered metaphor of this opening this store and then closing this store because people don't appreciate him. Right. Perhaps maybe Ye should have done that at a certain point in his career, like after Pablo, maybe, maybe that we'd see something a little bit different than all my niggas Nazis, nigga Heil Hitler. You know what I mean?
It's sad, man. You know what?
But-
Even before the Hitler stuff, I think I don't think I'm stepping too far out of pocket saying this. The real problem, I would say, is that the music just has been connecting. It hasn't been connecting, and it hasn't been hitting, for the last few. And I think that kind of fuels the antics of I got to do something. So there is like the notion of that idea, like, yo, if you had just quit when you were ahead, if you had like stopped and then left the people waiting for more. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I just like I don't know.
I'll say
It's
this:
like,
I'm never a proponent of people retiring. If you want to keep creating, I'm always with that. Two, I like Vultures One. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I actually like Vultures One. I think it's one of the times he actually sounds fun. Sounds like he's having a good time. But I think the bigger issue with Ye is which is his gift and his curse, his strength and his weakness. But he perpetually continues to fight to be younger, and I think that sort of adds a puerile nature to a lot of his stuff right now because of just where the youth are. And, so when I look at the stuff he's doing now, or even the people he's working with, if you look at the people he works with over the course of time, they're the people who represent that era. So now we're down to Dave Blunt's, you know what I mean? And I'm not sure he's elevating Dave. I don't think he's elevating Dave Blunt's. I think Dave Blunt's is bringing Ye down to his level. And I think that's a pattern that's been happening in the past decade.
All right, I'll say this. I think I saw Kanye one time on 106 in Park back in the day, and he spoke about he. Do you remember when he said like my albums need to be a time capsule of that particular time?
Yep.
Remember when he said that?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what that is. He's minimizing all of what he could do or where he could lead it or lead hip hop, but instead he's Lil Baby's the hottest guy in this era. I need to work with him because he's the hottest and put my stamp and make this music for this time, which is why I think he continues to do that. I think it minimizes his greatness because I think he's better sometimes than in time. Sometimes he's more talented and could be. Donda, to me, is one of his best albums by a long shot. But
really?
Yes. If you go back and listen to Donda, the production,
Crazy.
what he's doing, it's incredible. Like, God didn't really take his gift from him. Kanye just ruined his name and has a bad, taste in everyone's mouth. So we write him off, but he still has the gift and the talent. It's just kind of like you said, what he chooses to rap about sometimes and do the people even want to listen. But if you listen to Donda, the first one, you're like, that's Kanye. He's like channeling the emotions about his mom and all the things that he was going through in a good way. That's the best way he's done it. Some of this other stuff, it's a bit much.
Like Jesus Lord is it's an altar call with a Muslim and a drug dealer.
It's beautiful.
Like just conceptually.
Yes.
He's like right after Jay Electronica raps.
Oh my God.
Then Ye comes in and says, "Tell me if you know someone that needs Jesus." Like, yo, it's so crazy. It's a crazy juxtaposition when you look at it. I love that shit.
The thing that I know we're on a quick thing, tangent to the left, but the thing that Ye reminds me of is that movie Walk Hard.
Okay. Go on.
The Dewey Cox story.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
There's that whole like part of the Dewey Cox story where like he's trying to make the perfect song and he's fucking bringing every animal from Africa and all kinds of different and he's working on one song for 7 years and shit. Like, I feel like that's Ye. Like, at some point as an artist, and this is why I've always said, bro, like, one thing I loved about Mobb Deep, and I've said this a million times, one thing I love about Mobb Deep is when you play there's a new announcement, Mobb Deep album coming out. Guess what? I already know what it sounds like, and I'm very happy about that. It's going to be Prodigy and Havoc. They're going to shoot everybody. The beats are going to be dark. Phenomenal. This is great. I know it from the jump. So then when it sounds like that, I'm not disappointed. I knew what I was getting when I was going into it, and I'm excited to hear it.
Like Pusha T.
Like Pusha T, right? Where we get crazy is that like we don't be ready for artists to switch it up and push the envelope and come with a new Steve. Like we don't really want that. We say we want that, but we don't really want that. You know what I'm saying? Like I want Cuban Links 17 times in a row. Like that's what I want. You know what I'm saying? And I think from an artist standpoint, certain artists are like, I did this already. I need to take it to another level. But you can't always find another level.
But see, that's interesting because I would contend that I actually really enjoyed Kanye's reinvention and the way that if you look at the 6, 7 first albums, that although he clearly was like, yes, he was doing revisions and things, I really enjoyed that he was kind of reinventing and flipping it and that I didn't know what I was going to get. What, to your point, but kind of on the opposition of that, I think my bigger problem with the more recent Ye stuff aesthetically is that it doesn't sound like he spent a long time in the studio reconfiguring. It seems like first idea, great. Reference vocal, cool. Don't you want to recut that? Nah, it's fine. Like, yeah.
Oh no, he does recut it once you have it. So that comes out, then he changes the versions 8 times, and you got to re-download it 14 times to make sure that you got the latest one.
I'm wearing a Dilla Doom shirt right now. You should know enough about what my aesthetic is. My biggest thing, even when I first heard the College Dropout, I thought there was something wrong with my CD or my car, like stereo, because I was like, why do the drums not knock the way I think that drums should knock? You got to meet people where they're at sometimes. And like, look, Ye was not going to have Pete Rock drums. He wasn't going to have Mobb Deep drums, even like Alchemist or anything like that. But for me, the more recent stuff, it sounds too much like a sketch, even not vocally, just like production wise. They don't feel cooked, and I look. It's like the Andre 3000 piano album. It's like I appreciate it in concept. It's cool that he did this, but like keep that shit on your iPhone, bro. Like those are voice memos.
Because artists can become holier than thou in the sense that they're the smartest person in the room.
Right.
So Ye is now making music from the I'm the smartest person in the room standpoint. And like, you just don't get it. Like, this shit is genius. You just don't get it. You're gonna get it in 10 years, bro. Why? Like, I'm in the future. And it's like, nah, not really, bro. You're not in the future. You're right here, and it's just not very good.
He said you're right here.
Yeah, we saw. I'm gonna not slander a whole bunch of people in this and just name other artists who've done the same thing, but there's a lot where it's like, I'm on another level, bro. You just ain't catch up to me yet. And it's like,
that's what Joel
I don't know,
Santana.
D.
Joel's used to say that all the time. He got to the point it was like, I don't think you are, Jules. I don't think so. I don't think you're.
But to your point, the last album that he had to me that was cooked was Donda.
Yeah.
He took time to do that. So if you listen to that, you'll be like, okay, he takes time. And even the beginning, I think where he says his mom's name, Donda, he does it, I think, with her heart palpitations is what he's done. Like, so he's thinking. And I like when they think. I don't like when they just go.
All right, I will revisit Donda because I appreciate your input and feedback on it. We just spoke about Kanye West for a very long time. All that is to say, Kanye West Gone is Justin's favorite verse of 2005. MidaZ, what do you have up for your favorite verse?
I'm gonna go with the Super Flow with more jokes with more jokes than Bazooka Joe, a mix between Superfly Snooker and a Super Ho. Chew a MC like El Chupanibre. Digest the group and sell a poop on eBay. Danger with the vest screaming, shoot the DJ. Yo, come on, B. I love that verse. Like, state your intentions. I really love your tape, but I hate your inventions.
Very well.
Very well. What you want, a brownie? Yo, son.
Put me where you found me.
Doom on El Chupanibre is one of my favorite MF Doom verses of all time, which is a really wild thing to say when the fact that MF Doom has 7,000 of my favorite verses of all time, and this is one of my favorite of the favorites. I think about beef rap. I think about different stuff that's on Mad Villainy, different stuff that's on Vaudeville Villain. But El Chupanibre is so crazy as a verse, and even like the little side disses that he throws at Monster Island Czars is crazy. Like, once joined the rap crew, midgets into crunk. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's just all the MF Doom isms were on display on this verse. And it set the album off. Like, right out the gate, you get no bullshit. You go straight into El Chupanibre, and he goes crazy. So I'm gonna go with El Chupanibre, MF Doom.
All right, so verse of the year, mine is Bun B off of his album Trill. His verse is called it's actually a song. It's called The Story. And the verse is about 5 minutes long. There's no hook. He's just rapping the entire time. So it's technically a verse. Yeah. And so it reminds me of Andre on Love Below, A Day in the Life of Andre Benjamin.
Right.
Where he raps his whole journey from how he becomes start to finish of his career, where the rapping part of his career, basically. Bun is kind of the same thing. The story is basically about how him and Pimp got together and started UGK, and the label situations that he went through, about doing big pimping with Jay-Z, and he was saying how that he would want to do it, but Pimp wasn't sure, and he felt like that they would, alienate their fan base by going commercial. And then he talks about with Jive about why his label, why I think it was like the Ride and Dirty label the album got like pushed back, is because the label wanted to do Big Pimpin' 2. He wanted to get another verse from Jay, Hype Williams do the beat, and Timberland, and they were like, we kind of weren't sure, so they kind of pulled the plug on the album, so they lose the funding because they didn't want to do it. And so, so that's how they went stale. And but he explains it beautifully. Then Pimp goes to jail, and so he's out. That's when he started his Free Pimp C campaign, going on all those features, kind of killing it. things that he was going on in his own life, about like depression and drinking and getting back closer to God. It is, you probably never heard Bun B rap like this. Bun B, you just think a hard 16 that's sonically perfect and within the margins of every rule of hip hop, perfect. But this one is a little different. This one is like, it's introspective, it's vulnerability, it's everything. It's one of his best verses and songs. It's called The Story, Bun B.
Wow.
I had to pull that up. I have not heard that.
I haven't heard Trill in a long time, and I don't remember that song, but now I really want to check it out because, you're right. He is so great. Like, he's, to MidaZ's point, you can hear a Bun B verse before you hear it. You know what you're going to get, and you know you're going to like it. Like, he's just, he's a craftsman at what he does.
Yes.
But the idea of him, like, kind of coloring outside of the lines a little bit and, like, really just going off for 5 minutes, like, I know what I'm doing as soon as we end this. I'm gonna go listen to that song.
He starts the verse, say, "This is the realest rap I ever wrote or said." That from right there, that lets you know.
Amazing. All right, so we're gonna close it out. What's your pick for best artist? I mean, just say Kanye.
Yeah, I'm glad. I was like, it's like going to the basketball court and picking the tall guy first. It's like, duh. Kanye West, definitely. From his production.
2005 was the 50 Cent Ye.
No,
that was the next one. That was
it was
the next
07.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50 had the Massacre this year.
That's why I thought it might have been that year, but it wasn't. Okay.
A record that we have not talked about at all.
At all.
Like, so
we haven't. And it's some heat on there.
First
of all.
The first 12 songs are great.
I'm gonna say this about the Massacre. If the Massacre was trimmed down maybe 4 or 5 songs, it would be Get Rich or Die Trying Part 2.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we do on Making Illmatic. So maybe we'll have to do the
Massacre. Maybe we'll go back and revisit.
You've got
you cut that down, you got something.
But
he's got a Pussycat Doll on there. He's got
he's
got Justin Timberlake. He's got Robin Thicke.
Hitting all the points.
But even that whole back half can go. We could just end that at Rider Music, and I'm fine. End it at Ski Mask Way, whatever it is right there. That's fine.
Oh my God,
Ski Mask Way is actually a good pick for beat of the year because I love that beat. That production is crazy.
Rider Music, J.R. Rodham, I think made some of those beats on that spot.
But it's crazy. It's crazy
Baltimore Love Thing too. That's a crazy story from 50. You don't get a lot of third-person storytelling from 50 Cent. But Baltimore Love Thing is dope.
In my hood, niggas threw their face up at me on some real son. They don't want beef. Fire.
In my hood's crazy.
But it's crazy. Like, it's crazy that he even went up against Ye because even this year, even though it was 2 years prior, it was already laid out. Like, clearly, we've been talking about 2005 for 2 hours now, and we're just now talking about 50. This was Ye's year, to your point. It was already written in the sands of time what was going to happen when they did this sort of face-off for the next album cycle.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, that's it. His production, his rhyming, his marketing. He was sane. He didn't do anything crazy yet. It was incredible. Great year for Kanye.
Dope writer, dope producer. He was sane,
Right. I mean, it's crazy because the Massacre.
And you know what? I think this was that was the first year of his kind of like breaking of an artist. Like, he got it later with the label with Good Music, with like Chief Keef and stuff like that. But the Lupe was the first like breaking of somebody Kanye stamping and them going on being who they are.
And low key Common too. I mean, Common obviously had an established career, but I don't think we look at Common's career the same way if he hadn't linked up with Ye.
Not at all.
I'll also say that my honorable mention for best verse, I was neck and neck between the Hunte verse, and then I was going to say Ye's verse on Rhymefest, Brand New. I love that verse.
Man,
it's a great verse and a fun beat too. But anyway, spoiler alert: we liked Kanye West in 2005. That's the only thing to take away from this. MidaZ, what you got?
Overall artist, Sean P. The fuck is we talking about? Because that is the emergence of Sean P. 2005. Like, 2005, for all the Ye and all the everything, like, the biggest imprint on my life from that year it's the fact that we got monkey bars and we got the next 10 years of Sean P that didn't exist before that. Like
Sean P.
Yo, P, and then like you just think about everything that P did from a rap standpoint, even from like, yo, bro, P was one of the first motherfuckers doing the skits on YouTube and shit. You know,
Yeah.
he's trying to sell the rock to the thrift people or whatever the fuck. Like P was doing the early like, you know, like just all right, we're gonna get Drew how to come out here and film this video type shit. You know what I'm saying? P was just such a breath of fresh air from a hip hop standpoint that we got. And it went so far as to like, I remember hearing stories about P, about major labels coming knocking on the duck down doors, like, yo, what's up with this? What's up with Sean Price? Like, you know, and he's like, nah, I'm duck down. Like, I'm just over here. But the buzz was so crazy that he was able to manifest coming out of monkey bars and what that was. So like, and then the influence of what he was doing on the indie game and on the underground at the time, like the dude, like he said it, but he was like, this monkey bars was like supreme clientele for Duck Down. You know what I'm saying? Like it's literally saved the boot camp clique. You know what I'm saying? Like these dudes don't even do nothing no more if it's not for monkey bars. So, you know, monkey bars is such I think a monumental piece of hip hop history. And outside of the Ye dominance of 2005, and you know, he only dropped one thing in 2005, but I just really think that monkey bars was monumental. So with that being said, I'm gonna go with Sean Price. And monkey bars,
yeah, that's who I was gonna go with too, because he also was a surprise, and he was also punching.
Yeah, we didn't see that coming,
right? And he also, in a way, was a new name, you know. And then he was punching way above his weight class, above his weight class. You know what I mean? So even the album cover fits.
He was punching gorillas in the face.
Has there ever been? Let me ask you, and Justin, you know, especially since you was thinking the same thing. Like imagine if Havoc just came back out in 2006, and then we were all like, oh, you know what? He's rapping better than Prodigy.
Right, right.
That's so mind-boggling.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you would not ever say that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Rock, and I don't want to Rock is a monster on the mic.
Right.
Still, to this day, murderer on the mic. Amazing. Right. And like, even when they did that Helter Skelter reunion album, Rock is rapping crazy. You listen to them side by side and you remember like, God, this dude Rock is from another planet. But like, for P to be able to even be here with Rock was not something that you thought was going to happen, but you look forward to P. Like, it's wild how he did that.
I'll tell you what, we already talked about somebody else who you could kind of put in that category. Lil Wayne was in a group with Juvenile. And Lil Wayne basically eclipsed him and became like
but
what many contend is one of the best rappers of his time. You know what I mean?
But Wayne was a child, though. You know what I mean? Like they weren't peers. It wasn't like, you know, we know there's no questions on whether Sean P was writing it, but that's some cream in the clear. That's some performance enhancement we ain't seen at that point in time. That shit just crazy.
Unbelievable what he was able to do as in a duo. It's like me and you rap together, and then like in 10 years, I'm just gonna go crazy. Nobody's gonna know it.
And I look at him and Doom in that sense of you never know what's gonna happen when your back is really against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when Fat Joe came out and became Fat Joe, and they were like, people think I stole Pun's rhyme book. It's like, how did you get this good?
Right. Well, he did the ghostwriter thing. There's nothing you can tell me about Fat Joe. Got it. They did collaborative writing like crazy and everything. Fat Joe's around. You know,
they had to do something because Fat Joe. It was like it was a new artist. I was like, who is this?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That is a whole team. They got together and said, this is gonna feed all of us. Let's all get in here and do this. Sean Price was like, I got nothing left, guys.
Fat Joe had a greater reinvention just lyrically hanging out with Pun than his reinvention when he was no longer fat and was still going by Fat Joe. The leap in his is like it's out of control.
It's out of control.
The crazy thing about it though is that P doesn't even rap different than he rapped before. That's the wild part. It's a reinvention, but he didn't change a whole lot. It's just like the years changed. Like our ears changed. Like
and
10 years later, we just went, oh, this guy's crazy. But he was rapping, if you go back, he was still rapping like that.
Right.
Maybe a little faster, maybe a different pitch, but
and I think his the life experiences that he experienced in between, like, made just the way he was painting stuff was just so crazy.
I think it helped that he wasn't rapping next to Rock. I just feel like Rock's voice is so powerful. His style was so overshadowing that you just didn't even hear the other guy. And the other guy's really good. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when you heard him without Rock standing over him all the time, you're like, this fucking guy's amazing. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, Sean Price, bro. Rest in peace, Sean P.
Rest in peace,
Sean P. One of the great rappers of all time, man. Like, and I still unheralded or whatever you want to call it, because I feel like P just doesn't get the props that he's supposed to get. Just like the other P, I feel like Prodigy doesn't get the props he's supposed to get. That's a story for a different day. But I feel like P is kind of unheralded at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he ushered in a whole new energy in 05.
Right.
All right, Justin, what do you got?
I think I'm going to go with 50 Cent for Artist of the Year.
Okay.
And
getting some love finally.
You know what I'm saying? Because, you have the Massacre that does 1 million, first week, basically. Right? Yeah. He was such an instrumental part of the documentary. So,
That's fact.
A lot of the big songs off of that. He had the soundtrack that came out that same year, Get Rich or Die Trying, original soundtrack.
That's true.
Yeah. And then he got Tony Yayo a hit song. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, what's So Seductive? Is that it?
Which one? The Yayo song?
Yes, the Yayo.
The Yayo 50 Cent. Back on this gangster shit on the low.
What's the name of that?
Oh my gosh!
Is it
not So Seductive? No, it was So Seductive.
So Seductive. Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess it was So Seductive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
That joint is crazy.
And the other song on the G Unit where the rest of the G Unit was on it is on the Yayo. It's I Know You Don't Love Me. You ain't the same when Jay-Z's. That's one of the best hooks ever. Like, as an artist, like, I wish I had that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible hook.
He signed MOP and Mobb Deep.
Yeah, he did.
And Mace.
And Mace.
Right.
And he was taking them all to Europe and just window shopping with them. And they were just filming the shit.
He was single-handedly trying to keep New York in the conversation. He wouldn't leave the legends behind.
No.
That's very true.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think we'll go with
that detail left my brain 100%. That's
so cool. Yeah. And then Mobb Deep project was dope with him.
It was.
Yeah, it was a dope Mobb Deep project.
It was.
Yeah. The Out of Control song?
Yeah.
Yeah. I keep doing this. I keep painting myself in a corner that I should have taken this earlier because you guys have taken all my picks. Like I had Kanye and I had Sean Price on my list. And now I just have like very, very underground picks, which is kind of consistent with what I've been doing.
No one is touched.
Yeah. I'm prepared to just say one of these, and you guys are gonna just smile politely, and it'll end. But that's fine. I guess I talked about Hunte a lot already. I don't know if he's the artist of the year. I don't know if this is his the best example of his year. I'm just going to show love to more of the homies and the people that I'm cool with. I'm going to give it to Merce. Merce dropped 2 albums this year. Again, that's like, I was very impressed. It was a very great time to be into this very specific sliver of independent hip hop. He did the Felt 2 album, which I think was the best Felt album that he did. And then he did a record with 3 Melancholy Gypsies, which was also like, super, super experimental and very like freestyle fellowship sounding. But it was a good time to be a Merce fan in 2005 because he was on fire. He was in between the 2 Ninth Wonder albums. So like he was still riding that buzz, and like just think about that. Like I believe 2004 was the first Ninth Wonder album. So we did that. He was riding off that, touring heavy, dropped 2 albums, and then the next year dropped the second Ninth Wonder album. Like he was knocking it out the park. You know, I will again say that Kanye West and Sean Price are the correct answers for this, but just to try to diversify the portfolio here.
And 50 Cent.
And 50 Cent.
And 50 and Jeezy.
And Jeezy.
And Jeezy, yeah.
Yeah.
But I've already expressed my bias against Jeezy, so it was never gonna land in that way. But yes, I respect it. I respect 50 Cent as your pick as well, but that's what I'm going with. So we have reached the end here. So let's just go through. I'll start with you, MJ. Your picks were for best mainstream album. You had Kanye West, Late Registration. For best underground album, you had Chamillionaire and Paul Wall, Controversy Sells. Best artist, you had Kanye West. Best verse, you had Bun B, The Story. Best beat, you had Kanye West, Crack Music. Best producer, you had Kanye West. Best album cover, you had The Game, the documentary. Best video, you went with Jeezy, Soul Survivor. And best guest verse, you went with Paul Wall and Nelly's Grills. It's very, very yayed out, but again,
I'm yayed out. He had a hot year.
MidaZ, you had Jeezy, Let's Get It, Thug Motivation 101 for best mainstream album. For underground album, you went with GZA, Grandmasters. Best artist, you went with Sean Price. Best verse, you had MF Doom on El Chupa Libre. Best beat, you went with The Game's Runnin'. Best producer, you had Shardy Red. Best album cover, you went with Sean Price, Monkey Bars. Best video, Jeezy Go Crazy. Best guest verse, you did Jay-Z on Memphis Bleek's Dear Summer. Justin, you had for your best mainstream album, Lil Wayne's The Carter 2. Best indie album, you went with Sean Price, Monkey Bars. Best artist, 50 Cent. Best verse, you went with Kanye West, either verse on Gone. Best beat, you went with Kanye West, Gold Digger. Best producer, you went with Danger Mouse. Best album cover, Little Brothers The Minstrel Show. Best video, Commons Testify. Best guest verse, you went with Lupe Fiasco on Kanye's Touch the Sky. And I was rolling it out with best mainstream album, Little Brothers The Minstrel Show. Best underground album, Blueprint 1988. Best artist, I went with Merce. Best verse, I went with Hunte on Little Brothers All For You. Best beat, Mike Jones, Still Tippin'. Best producer, Ant. Best album cover, Eat On, Beauty and the Beat. Best video, Dilated People's Back Again. And best guest verse, I went with Jay-Z on Kanye's Diamonds from Sierra Leone remix.
Like it.
Wow. I think we need to start making these shorter. That's the only note I'm going to say. But this was fun. Before we take off, and we want to know what you think. Let us know who we missed and who do you think has the best picks. Time for plugs. Justin, what should the people know about what you got going on? How can people check for you?
Follow The Company Man on YouTube. Follow The Company Man on all platforms. Check out the Justin Hunt podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts. Life Through the Lens of Hip Hop. That's the mantra. And newest episode of Culture United just dropped. We had special guests Jeremy Hecht, Mr. Mech, Curtis King, Screwface John, and myself. I think that's what it was. But it's a panel show that brings in voices, artists, actors all across the conversational divide, and we hash it out over the hottest topics of the month. So it's all happening.
Amazing. MJ, tell us what we should look out for from you.
The Don't Quote Me podcast on all social media platforms, everything across the board. Also at The Last MJ, from everything from Instagram to Facebook to YouTube, and that's it. And hopefully you guys will have me back here. This is great. It's fantastic.
We will definitely have you back. MidaZ, any plugs?
Nah, just new music on the way. New album. Currently in the trenches of working on the album with my brother Tri-State fully produced by Oh No, The Disrupt. Gonna be real crazy. So that's coming this year. As soon as we finish it, we're working on it.
Amazing. And we got the Questions Hip Hop podcast. You can watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts at. If you haven't done it already, cop the Questions Hip Hop trivia card game, available at questionshiphop.com. And we'll be back. I think we're going to do one of these drafts like every quarter. So maybe next time we do 2015. I like keeping with the fives. And I like
that was a good year too.
I like exploring different years. I feel like we talk a lot about the 90s, but what was interesting is that even in talking about these, we've covered a lot of these albums on Making Illmatic episodes too. Mm-hmm. So it's a definitely, I don't know how I feel about 2005 now that I've talked about it more than I ever thought I ever would, but it was an interesting year for sure.